Welcome to the 2023 Coaching Summit. This Coaching Summit is brought to you by us, Zoe Hawkins and Joe Wheatley from Ingood Company, a global coaching training organisation. It is our mission to make coaching as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, and this Coaching Summit is one of the ways in which we do that. If you'd like to connect with us outside of this summit, then please follow us on Instagram, connect with us on LinkedIn, or join our Facebook group, The Coaching Crowd. We encourage you to share your learnings from these sessions and tag us in our social channels so we can share in the learning with you. But for now, sit back and enjoy the session. We can't wait to hear what you think.
Hello, everybody. Very warm welcome from wherever you're joining us in the world. I'm Jo Wheatley. I'm one of the co-founders of Ingood Company, and we have created this coaching summit to provide access to information and tools around coaching for people that are interested in coaching or are in training or trained coaches themselves. So we hope that you really enjoy day 2 of the coaching summit. I am so delighted to be able to introduce Pham to you today. We met originally on LinkedIn, and then Ha joined us for the Emotions Coaching Practitioner training, where we really enjoyed getting to know Ha. She's an ethical, talented coach based in Vietnam. And her session today is unlocking highly sensitive people's high potential by giving voice to their unspoken longing. And the session is going to focus on using intuition, compassion, and authenticity. And you'll have plenty of tools to take away, whether you identify as a highly sensitive person yourself, or you want to develop your relationship with yourself and your own emotions. So enjoy the session, and I'll hand you over to Ha.
Thank you very much, Jo, for such an introduction. And I'm very much aware of the fact that the name of the title of the session is maybe hard for you to pronounce them all. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here for you all today, and thank you for turning up. I really appreciate the fact that you're carving out the time today to be here, and I hope that it will be useful for you. So to start the session today, first of all, I just want to first to share my screen so that you can see my slide. I just hope that you can see it now.
Yeah, we can see it, Ha.
Yeah, thank you very much. So to start the session today, I would like to invite you to answer one question, and you can put that in the chat. The question is, if you point your camera to the direction of love, what will you capture? So that's the question. So I would give you a couple of minutes to see what's coming through. Contentment. My kids playing. Oh, that sounds amazing. Puppy. Yes, I'm a dog person myself. Yes, music, dog, the family members, partner. Yes, I love all the information coming through. And the reason that I'm asking that question is because I want you to tune in that feelings of love, the feeling of being loved and loving someone. How does that even feel in your body? Right. So for me, that's the most magical feeling ever that we can feel. And I actually learned it the hard way. So a little bit about myself, that growing up as a kid, I was a very sensitive kid, but I didn't know back then is what does it mean about it? Is that a trait or something? So I grew up with a lot of feeling of being different. I have very strong emotional reaction, and I feel like there must be something wrong about me, that I have little self-control. And you know, because of my own experience, I growing up feeling like I need to suppress the person that I am, the feeling that I was having. So to the point that when I was at the age of 25, I found myself in deep depression. And in that state of feeling completely lost in life, the career that I was pursuing no longer making sense to, and the sense of identity fell apart. I realized that the whole time I was living out of alignment with who I am. And my emotion was trying to tell me something all along. So from that age of 25 until, all of the rest of my 20s, I spent time to really understand myself, understand the trait of being sensitive, and really heal myself and reconnect with the truth of who I am. And what I'm going to share with you today is a result of that journey. And pretty much along the journey, love is the guiding light. Love is the combining factor. And when I say love, what I really mean is that by transformation happens when we realize that we are enough all along. That's the message that I learned all throughout my journey, that the message of self-love. And that is also my principle of change, of how change happens for people when they come to my coaching session. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And today what we're going to talk about is how can we coach highly sensitive people effectively. And I just want to give a little bit of disclaimer that when I say that during the session, I may mention that the gift of highly sensitive people or non-highly sensitive, I didn't mean to discriminate the experiences that we have at all. What I really mean by that is we human beings, we just like plants and flowers, we flourish according to different conditions that we are in, right? So the same way happened to people with the trait of sensitivity, which is different conditions in order to survive and then thrive. And that is the message that I want to get across today. So in terms of the outline of the session, the first thing that we're gonna do is we want to understand the trait of highly sensitive person. And then we moving on to the tool that we will use to help them move from surviving to thriving. And there's a little bit about coaching present. I'm gonna explain to you at the end about what is that and why that is important. So highly sensitive person is a term coined by Ellen Arendt in the mid-1990s, because during her research, she figured out that there's a group of people who have heightened responsiveness to the external and internal stimuli. And with more research into the brain function later on, we figure out that physiologically, highly sensitive people have a more activated central nervous system and also the mirror neuron system that make them process emotion more strongly. They pay more attention to sensory stimuli. They have higher empathy, and they also process of information a lot deeper than normal. And because of these characteristics, when we think about HSP, the simple way for us to remember about them is the depth of their processing, that they have the ability to connect different processed and concepts in order to generate new meaning. And it's also requiring that they take time to process the information. They also are very easily get overstimulated simply because they taking in more of the sensory stimuli around them and within them. And they also be easier for them to be emotionally reactive, but also equally that they can also have very strong empathy. And last but not least, they're very sensitive to the little different change, the subtle change in the environment, be it like sound, energy of the people around them, light, noises, and also the subtle changing within them as well, such as the different state of emotion, the thoughts, the energy. So in a way that what we need to think about this trait is it not only exists in human being, it actually exists in over 100 other species. And about 20% of the world population have this trait, which means that 1 out of 5 people that you may know is a highly sensitive person. And I want to highlight the fact that actually, when we think about sensitivity, it's not a trait exclusively to a group of people called highly sensitive people. Sensitivity or emotional reaction exists on a spectrum. So we experience that differently regardless of whether we identify with the term or not. So that leads to the next point that I want to make is that highly sensitive person, it is a trait like being introverted or extroverted. It's not an identity. It's not a label that box you or define or lock you in some sort of like destiny. It's not. So if any of these of the information that I have been sharing so far that been resonating with you, I highly recommend that you check out, different research and more information about the trait, because there's so much more that I cannot have the time to share today. But from my experience, my audience has said that once they are exposed to the term, either that they identify calling themselves an HSP or not, the experience of knowing someone else out there experiencing the same thing, it really helped them to normalize their experiences. It helped to neutralize that sense of there's something wrong with me. And because of that, then they can gradually overcome self-doubt, inner critic, internal shame, and then they can get that sense of belonging to the community of people, who are supportive, who are going through the similar challenges like they do. And by exposing to this kind of knowledge and connection, people, they feel empowered to move from, surviving with the trait to thriving with the trait. So talking about surviving to thriving, I want to moving on to the next part of the session, which is about the tools and the techniques that we can use. But before I dive deep into that, I really want to give a little bit of like notice or a bit of like highlight here is that for you to work effectively with people who identify as being highly sensitive or having that trait of sensory sensitivity, you have to know how to coach emotions. And the reason for that is because highly sensitive people, they are very longing for deep connection. They prefer deep connection over small talk. They seek to make authentic connection. So when they show up in a coaching space, they wish to be heard. They wish to be felt and understood and really seen. So the fact that they share with you, they opening up to you, their story, their challenges, their emotion, even crying, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that they're trusting you, they're open up for you, the things that they don't get to share in other space. So I know that Joe and Joey have a beautiful training on emotion coaching, so I highly recommend you check that out. And another reason is that from my experience working with people being highly sensitive, emotion become the window to their inner wisdom and the truth of their longing, which simply means that the more out of alignment they are with what they really want and have out in life, the stronger emotion become. So it become like a signal for them to realize and to direct the attention to where is that they can go into and look into and seek for the deeper truth of their experience. So it's really important again for you to be able to work with emotion when you work with highly sensitive people. So moving on to from surviving to thriving, of course, when we talk about that transition, we need to think about the needs of highly sensitive people, right? So here I created that HSB hierarchy of needs from my own experience. And if you look at the pyramid over here from the bottom to the top, those are actually the journey that a highly sensitive person normally go through when we go through the journey of healing and integration and become whole and become authentic. So the first layer is about self-care, which I would talk about a little bit more just in a few seconds. And once we take care of ourselves, then it's easier to be self-compassionate, to learn to communicate our needs and to set boundaries. And setting boundaries and communicating it is one of the most biggest challenge that HSP face. And the reason for that is because I feel like whoever feel upset or disappointed, they tend to blame that because of their own faults. And when we can help them to articulate their needs and what they want in a compassionate way, why they still have the space to acknowledge the needs and the feelings of other people, it's very liberating for them. It's powerful stuff. And of course, we don't have much space for it right now to share about it, but if you're interested in that, I highly recommend you to check out Nonviolent Communication, the book, so that you can look into more of this. And moving up another level of the needs, we're talking about connections. So the connection here is a connection with themselves, with the like-minded people, with the community of people who sharing and supportive of the trait, but also the connection with nature. From my experience and from my learning from a nature summit that happened, I think about 2 years ago, I learned something very fascinating, that our human body biological rhythm, it matches the rhythm of nature. So when we live in the world of lots of different stimuli, of a very high pace, high pressure lifestyle, it disconnected us, it disrupted that rhythm of us. So with the higher sensitivity, of course, highly sensitive people, they feel that even more. So the connection with nature is one of the key things. And moving up another ladder, we see that self-trust is now important, because now they can take care of themselves, they can love and be kind to themselves, they make good connection. Now it's time for them to really looking at the intuition, to act on the intuition, to trust the intuition, and then experience the positive reframe of their trait. And from that place of knowing what the trait have to offer, as a gift to the world, then come the part of self-actualization, where there's an integration of different strengths, different part of them. There's also a process of individualization, where they realize that, what is that unique about them that they can offer the world. So when you look at this hierarchy of needs, it's already a very beautiful tool for you to start with, your clients or people having, HSP, because you can see which part of the journey, which part of needs are most needed for them, right? So if you look at a tool like the Wheel of Life, we can integrate that into something similar. And self-care here is a must. So when we talk about self-care, I want to talk about energy management. I don't want to talk about like task management. And I know that we have a session that mentioned about energy management, and that read so very well yesterday. So I recommend you to check that out. For me, what I want to highlight for highly sensitive people is that because the level of energy very much depends on the exposure of different stimuli that they have during the day. So having flexibility during the day and during the week to choose to take time off when they need to is very important. And if you are a career coach, that's something that you need to consider for your client as well, because obviously, they need to consider that element of flexibility in their day-to-day job as well. And in terms of emotion regulation, there's so many techniques out there that you can check out. But one thing that I learned is so powerful is all we need to do with our clients is to get them to experience the full spectrum of their emotions. And what I mean by that is not just to think about the emotion, but feel them in the body. And I want to highlight that because even though highly sensitive people are very in tune with their feelings and the different stimuli around them, actually it's very overwhelming. It's very intense, the feeling that they get. So sometimes it's too scary, it's too intense that they choose to disengage, they choose to shy away, to escape, to suppress the emotion. So rather than feeling them and allow them to process and to release, they rationalize them, they judging their emotional reaction. So that's why getting them to experience it from the bodily level is so important. So moving on to the challenge that we see in HSP, the very common one I have just said, it's emotional flooding is a term that I learned from Joey in that emotion coaching training, the level of stress and overwhelm. So the coaching focus of us is, of course, to help them to regulate emotion, to rebalance and calm the nervous system. And to do that, I just want to introduce something, the term of optimal performance zone. So all of us, we have an optimal performance zone, or some for the window of tolerance, in which we have the capacity to handle stress in a very resilient and resourceful way. And if we look at the illustration there, the zone of optimal performance for highly sensitive people are normally very narrow, simply because they tend to very easily go into that hyper-arousal stage. The moment they get overstimulated by something that considered maybe normal to other people, maybe a certain sound in the morning, the change in the light. So taking care of the energy, self-care is important, right? Because then they can recognize when they become restless, they have running thoughts, they become too tired to sleep. And when they are in that state, then they need to engage in soothing activity to calm the nervous system, to get to widen that optimal zone and to get back into that balanced state. And for highly sensitive people, something very interesting that I noticed is that normally we know of them as someone who are highly sensitive, so easily get triggered, overly stimulated, but they can also get understimulated as well, which is a zone of hyperarousal. It's normally happen when people, they disconnect with the world because of the intense experience that they have outside. So they may close off and they may spending too much time in their own without engaging with meaningful activity, the thing that bring them joy and fun. And that is also when, highly sensitive people need to learn to balance their energy, when to get out in the world and when to step back and taking that time for themselves. So that is something to bear in mind. And of course, when you coach highly sensitive people, this is the tool for you to use, to help them to navigate and find a rhythm of self-care that allow them to be in this optimal zone. And the bit that I want to offer here is just a magic question. When we think about self-care, when the clients come to you saying that they're facing lots of different issues, the powerful question to ask is let them to explain to you the full spectrum of their experience and ask, what do you need most right now? What do you need most right now? It can be so simple that to share the information with you, to be with someone right now, or just go out there and have a walk. And the next challenge that we may see people come to coaching for is that they only see the downside of their trait, which is completely understandable given how overwhelming and intense the experiences are for them. So the focus of our coaching would be to help them to see the gift and the strength for themselves. And there's many of them actually. So they have very strong self-awareness. So in coaching conversation with them, we can invite them to describe in lots of details about what happened for them internally. And what I observe in the process of coaching people is that again and again, when we allow them to get in touch with the self-awareness, the solution arises for themselves. That's very, very powerful. And the second thing is that they have a very good depth of processing. So engage them with reflective practice, allow them to do further reading and learning. And one thing is so powerful is visit the same question more than once. If you ask them one question at the beginning, at the middle of the session, and then at the end of the session, you would be amazed by the level of insight that they generate time after time when we ask them more. And you can also be very creative in the way that we allow them to contemplate. So for example, I asked my client, what is your most heart melting song, the kind of song that make you dance, make you happy, having fun. Can you contemplate on the lyrics? Tell me, what is that telling you about you in the lyrics? What is important for you there? So we can be very creative in the process, and I love that, because highly sensitive people, they are very much in tune with arts, music and arts. And then the other thing is empathy, because they have very strong empathy. So we can engage them, especially if they come to you with a certain conflicts that they are facing. We engage them in the kind of exercise called perceptual positioning. So we allow them to take their role in the other shoes and tap interpreting the other reality. And what I observe in the coaching with people is that they always generate beautiful insight from the exercise themselves. And normally the conflict just dissolve itself as now they gain the empathy and understanding for the other people, or at least the work is much easier. And they can also be very creative. So, you can even engage them to create their own methods of taking care of themselves. I have a client, and when I give her exercise that, now to calm the nervous system, let's find something that helps you to engage your different senses, sensory. And she's like, okay, for me, that is taking a warm bath or shower because it helps, right? So engage them in that creation process as well is very powerful. And something about highly sensitive people is that they have this bit of them, which is called sensitivity vantage. It's actually a psychological term, which basically means that they respond strongly to negative influences, but equally strong to positive influences. So they respond extremely well to positive connection, nurturing connection around them, a therapeutic kind of exercise you introduce to them. My clients are very hardworking, very keen on doing this kind of exercise. When I give them, meditation exercise, visualization, mindfulness activities, they love that, and they pick up the importance of these exercises. They pick up the advantage, the benefit of these exercises so very well. And we can also engage them to take a positive perspective of the thing that they're experiencing by asking them, what's the gift here? And you would be amazed by, how much of the wisdom that they reveal to you when you ask the question. And the last piece of the gift of highly sensitive people is that they have high sensory sensitivity, equally mean that they have high sensory intelligence, which simply means that they have a very strong embodied knowing. They have different way of knowing the world around them. So for example, I myself is a highly sensitive person, and I'm very much in tune with others' emotion. And it's so very powerful for me to even experience that myself and seeing how the intuition guiding my clients through the session and give them the experience that really transformative. And for other people, they may very much in tune with linguistic feature of people's speech. Some people, they can read energy. Some people, they can feel things in their heart and it's telling you something. For some people, they can get those questions constructed in their head, or wisdom that come to them as a gentle voice. And so engaging in the high sensory intelligence as well, which is so powerful. And the thing that they also get challenged is, if you look at their life experiences, the one underlying theme is that they constantly disconnect with their truth, the truth of their feeling, the truth of their opinion, and the truth of who they are at the energy, at the identity level. So when we coach them, we want to help them to articulate and bring what is unconscious to the conscious. And how do we do that? First of all, I want you to bear in mind that we as a coach, we are here to not to fix the problems, but to reveal what is already within for them. Because the highly sensitive people, they have very strong intuition. They kind of know what is going on. They just cannot have the word for it. So we just need to lean into that intuition, that inner wisdom within them. And I'm sure that you are familiar of this terms of inner wisdom, whether or not you coach highly sensitive, because we all do have this inner wisdom. So when we look at this diagram here, you know, above the line, it's what's being said by them, and under it, what needs articulation. So when we're hearing them, we can hunt for this kind of information. We can hunt for what is that, you know, what is the hidden emotion there that they haven't mentioned? Or you can ask them, is there any emotion that they denying or they not willing to allow to be, you know, show up? Or you can listen to the assumption that apply. So for example, when they say that, oh, I should do this, I should do that, I shouldn't do this, I can't. You know, we can ask them, what is that you're assuming about the other person or the situation that preventing you from taking the action that you really want to do? Or we can listen to the values underlying. So the values here, for example, when I have a conversation with a client, they tend to share that, you know, they feel like they tend to be the giver in relationship, and they want to be able to, and they feel bothered by it. They feel bothered by the fact that, you know, in interaction with other people, their lack of equality. So, you know, even though they don't really use the word equality or fairness, we can pick up on that. You know, so we are not fixing the problem that they, you know, presenting to us. We listen to the part of identity that coming up through the experience, which is the value. Or we can engage in, you know, their dream, you know, any part of identity that seems to be conflicting with the conditioning. So for example, I have a client who are so hardworking. I feel like work is the majority of her identity. But then when I interact with them, I feel something off. And then when I interact, when I engage her in kind of like visualization exercise and allowing her to you know, visualize about her in 20 years, what is that she's wishing to happen, you know, what happiness means to them, to her. She said that, oh, actually, what I eventually want in life is I don't want to work anymore. You know, it's not the means to an end. And after that session, the client feedback to me that, you know, it's so liberating for her to even just articulate that dream herself, because she's so feared of judgment. Right? So these are all the things that you can engage in a conversation with the client when you are with them. And I coming to the last bit of my presentation here is that the most important job of us as a coach, you know, especially for highly sensitive people, is to provide them with the highest quality of our presence. And when I say presence, I mean that living embodiment of our knowledge, our self-knowledge, our values, our skills, either personally or professionally. Why? Because they seek that human to human, heart to heart connection. They want you to be authentic. And by being authentic to them, you just need to show up fully and truthfully, to be raw and real. You don't try to come across as perfect. You just need to meet them exactly where they are. And you also need to be compassionate. And when people think of compassion, you know, they think of kindness, but it goes beyond kindness. It starts with a deep understanding of their experience so that we understand, you know, we have empathy for the experience, but it also takes patience because they take longer to process information. It takes a longer time for them to then eventually arrive at the wisdom that, you know, within them or the truth within them. So being patient to them, being loving, being kind, and even, you know, having joy, having fun, telling fun stuff, sharing with them the humor, that is the gift that you can offer to highly sensitive people. So basically what I'm trying to get across is when you walk into that space with highly sensitive people, you want to make them believe in themselves. You want them to believe that they have all that it takes to achieve what they want in life and truthful, their truth. And to end the session today, I just want to share that I've been sharing lots of different things. Some of you may feel like, oh, I need to learn this, or I need to have more knowledge of that. But what I really want you to take away now, here, right now, is that you are enough. We are enough. We have all that it takes us to serve our clients. And I learned that through my experience myself when I started coaching more than 2 years ago, feeling completely de-skilled with my first clients. And here I am sharing with you all these things. This all happened within 2 years. And I know that, whatever you believe and see in you, you can enable that for your clients. So that is the end of my session today. And I would then open the floor for any question, if any one of you may have. Thank you for listening. So now I just have some time to look through the chat. So do share with me if there are any questions that I missed, but I was just scanning through now. Okay, so one question from Brian, that how can we resolve and protect ourselves as a HSP coaches? So everything that I share with you now, I have just now in terms of the hierarchy of needs, the all of life to you also as a coach. So normally when we think about protecting our energy, we think about, a shield that guarding us from whatever that's taking away our energy. But, think about energy as in the flow of energy. We take and we give. So if you're in a session and you give away your energy to your clients, right? Even if you connect with them from that space of heart-to-heart connection, actually you also take from them as well. And allowing yourself to surround it with nurturing connection, surrounding yourself in nature. Nature is powerful healing remedy for all of us. Yes, I will gonna share the slide with all of you. I know that we have a pop-up group. And yes, we are gonna share that. And I have someone raise their hand. Yes, please. Can I? Yes. Yes, I'm just not sure how to pronounce your name.
Nige, you got your hand up there?
I am.
Yeah.
Morning, all.
Sorry.
My name's Nige. Thank you for this. It's really made me think. So I think I'm working with someone at the moment who probably ticks quite a lot of the boxes you've been talking about.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a overthinker and confidence issues as well. So how would you recommend, I know it's really difficult for you to put you on the spot like that, but with somebody who's highly sensitive with confidence issues, how would you tie those two things in together?
Yes. So again, I would come back to the point that we would lean on the strength. So whenever I work with the clients, of course they would come to us with problems, right? With what's not going well in their life. But then what we can do is we can engage. So tell me, even a small time in your life that you can recall the time that you do feel confident. There must be something that they do feel confident about, even just a little bit, and we can go from there. And even from the time of childhood, when there's not much of conditioning going on and they have more of the freedom to express themselves, and lean on from that space of, I did feel confident, and then, oh, what happened there? How did you manage? Right? So we can lean on that space of what is going on well for them. And the reason I'm suggesting that, because one of my coaching principles is that there's no problem happen all the time. There will be a gap for things to shift. Yeah. So I hope it has been helpful for you.
Yeah, so seek for a foundation to build them back up with, or to help them build themselves back up on. Is that right?
To engage them with what is already within, they have within them. Yeah, the strength and the confidence that they can already see through their life experiences. And we kind of like enlarge that pocket of strength.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Is there any other question? I know that we have about like 5 minutes left. How do you support HSP to find more moderation and ease? Yes, so I think when we talk about working with highly sensitive people, or actually any one of us really, when we find ourselves in that, when we find our client prone to extreme overthinking and perfectionism, it means two things: that they really need to take care of themselves. So helping them to build that self-care vision is the first step, because only from that place of mutual balanced nervous system, that then they can, have the capacity to handle more in life. And the second thing that I may guess, it's just my guess, that there might be still more negative, I would say negative here in like quote, like not every emotion are like equally valid, but there might be that negative energy that's still trapped within them in the form of energy. And the reason I'm saying that, because I'm also working as emotional freedom technique therapist. And one thing that I learned is that people tend to have very narrow scope of handling stress and overwhelm, because they're already stuck under it that needs to be released. So, maybe, engage them with the past experience and help them to, move from the shadow of the past, and allow them to articulate the thing that's still trapped in them, the emotion. It would be very helpful. And yes, Gaynor, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, your presentation today, I think, is really, really helpful, especially for people who have already identified that they are a highly sensitive person. But what would you do in the situation where you're coaching somebody and they come to you with an issue, and through your coaching, you identify that they are showing traits of being highly sensitive, or are indeed a highly sensitive person, but they can't see it and they haven't yet acknowledged it? How do you work through that so that you get them to a place of understanding that they're, we're not big fans of labels, but actually understanding the traits of a highly sensitive person, I think would be really empowering, really reassuring for somebody who is struggling with something. So how do you work your way into getting them to identify that for themselves?
Yes. I think that's a great question. And actually, it's something I want to cover in the presentation, but as I need to cut that out, we run out of time. So my answer for that is just meet the clients at the level of where they are. And if you do identify that they have the trait of highly sensitivity, it potentially means that they enjoy learning as well. They enjoy to process information. And that what it really means is you can say, oh, like by interaction with them, I have a feeling that you may benefit from, understanding these kind of materials that describe, exactly the kind of thing that you're going through. Would you be keen on to kind of like have a look at that? And then you leave the choice to them to choose whether or not, after reading all of the stuff, to say, oh, am I an HSP or not? Because when I work with HSP people, actually, they don't come to me as a HSP person. They come to me because they say that, oh, I struggle with my emotion, or I struggle with setting boundaries. And then when I work with them, then, I kind of reveal to them that, you may consider that. But ultimately, I very rarely use the term with them, to be honest. And allow, because even when we work at HSP, they all each a very unique individual. So we treat them exactly to the problem that they're facing, rather than, you got it, like not the label that we're putting on, because it's just a trait.
As something. I understand.
Yeah, exactly. You're very welcome.
Carl, thank you so much. I think we have to close off there because we're running out of time. Great. I'm so sorry, but thank you so much. It's been such an insightful session. There have been so many wonderful comments in the chat there, which obviously we'll share with you. But I just wanted to leave you with one that just really stood out for me. It says, this session has made me feel like I've cleaned my glasses and can now see clearly who I am. So I just thought that was really nice. So I comment there for you. Anybody else got any questions for her or any of the other speakers from yesterday or today? Please feel free to pop into our Facebook Facebook group, which is the Coaching Summit warm-up, where our speakers will be leaving their resources in there as well, and obviously popping any information in there for you. And again, if you want to get in contact with us from In Good Company, please feel free to pop in the group there or email us. And thank you all again for joining us today. Thank you again, Ha.
Thank you all.